thing. There we go. All right. And we are live. Welcome to the Best Damn Podcast, a special edition of the interview show. I am joined by Kaitlyn Keen. Kaitlyn, how are you doing today?
Hey, Tyler. I'm doing really well. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And Susan is in the chat, is in the show tonight with everybody. She's joining on the interviews. So this is a topic you were recommended to us by our good friend Casey Ray.
Love Casey Ray.
Casey Ray, Notorious Escapade. Shout out to her show, obviously. How would you explain yourself in your field?
Sure. So, by training, I'm technically a population health scientist, but currently my job is at American Cancer Society. So I work with cancer centers across Illinois, basically to end cancer as we know it for everyone. So from prevention all the way to survivorship. So, and I like to have fun with it, which is why it's so awesome to be here with you all.
Okay, so you are a cancer previvor. You prevent cancer from happening with people.
Well, that's correct? My goal. Yeah, to me, a cancer previvor really is my journey and my connection to the work that I do. You know, I can share a little bit about what that means to me. A previvor is somebody who is surviving a predisposition of cancer. And so whether cancer is caused by, lifestyle factors or genetics is different for everybody. In my family's case, we have an increased risk due to our genetics. And so I'll get into that. But because of that information, I was able to take preventive measures and surgeries to reduce my risk. And so that's what makes me a previvor. So I love to be able to share about the importance of just having the information so that you can make your own choice.
So I take it then you said your family has cancer and it's genetic, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So being a previvor just means that I have that genetic mutation. So I'm a mutant. People like to call me a mutant, but it's like a BRCA1 genetic mutation, and that increases my risk for breast cancer, for ovarian cancer, and for pancreatic cancer, and some others, slight increased risk. But my mom, when she was young, I was about 7. I remember the day that she had surgery. I was sitting in, second grade reading class is what I remember. And she was having surgery because she'd been diagnosed with breast cancer. And so through her journey, we learned that she carried that genetic mutation, got tested. And so when she got her results, my sister and I were recommended to get that testing, and my results came back positive. So that would mean that my risk of developing breast cancer was upwards of like 80%.
Holy shit.
My mom was so young that we had to really take proactive measures because I'm a mom and I have a 14-year-old that I'm here to raise. So
yeah. It's so weird too, because you mentioned breast cancer. Women seem to get the worst types of cancer, period. Like men will get cancer with like the prostate, but women, breast cancer, ovarian cancer. My grandmother in 2015 was diagnosed with ovarian cancer.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And by 2017, which was a hard year already for us because we lost our grandfather that year, my grandmother's cancer went terminal all across her body, and she unfortunately had to go into hospice. And you see how bad cancer gets with people, you see people like, people who are strong, normally healthy, normally happy. Once they get cancer and it goes south like that, you see them just become a shell of what they used to be. That's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, Tyler, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm sorry for your family's, experience with that. Ovarian cancer is a tough one, especially because there's not a great way to detect it early. There's no screening test for it. And so, anything we can do to increase awareness, or in some cases like mine, where it's, genetic predisposition, that we just talk about it and tell families like yours, hey, check out genetics testing. So
Right. So would you suggest that maybe everyone should probably get genetic testing?
I am a huge proponent of it. So here's the thing with genetics and cancer. About right now, the science shows us that about 11% of cancers have a genetic predisposition, which again just means that it's coming from, it's hereditary. It's coming from your genes, as opposed to like not taking good care of ourselves, or being around a lot of air pollutants or something like more
Mm.
style based. And so because about 11% of cancers, which is 1 out of 10, have that genetic predisposition, that affects a lot of us, right? Cancer is already prevalent enough that that's a lot of people. So I like to tell everybody that has had some patterns in their family, with cancer, to ask their provider if that is a good fit for them. Should I get genetics testing? Would that help me? And at least start that conversation. The other thing is genetics testing is really accessible. It can be done just by a lab order, and then the counseling piece can be done over a phone call. And so, just being able to roll up at the lab, have some blood drawn, and then receive a phone call from a genetics counselor to review your results together can be really powerful in the form of prevention, right? My
Mhm.
family was able to learn something that could it might have saved my life. If I hadn't known that we had that genetic mutation, I could have gotten cancer at the same time my mom did, right? So, yeah, I always think it's important to ask. An employee health benefit for us this year was from Color Health, a genetics test. And so I signed up for it, and my test came in a box. I don't even think I saved it, or I'd show you guys, but I sped on it and mailed it back, and got a phone, they sent me a text, and I, created an account with the Color Health portal, and then a genetics test or a counselor called me with my test results 2 weeks later. So
Mm.
that's something that a lot of employers are starting to do, because we know that detecting cancer is not only, better for our health, but it's a lot less expensive.
It's amazing how technology's come so far. When I was a kid, there was literally no way. The only way you detect cancer when I was a kid, I don't know how old you are, but in the 90s, early 90s, it was you found something abnormal, like a lump or a tumor or something like that. It's so amazing how far technology's gone to the point where we can actually detect it, and we can detect the factors upon like whether or not you will have this down the road, or you will have a complication from this at some point. It's amazing.
Absolutely. It is. And it's a lot of hard work too. So I work at American Cancer Society, and our sister organization, the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, is like our lobbying arm of the organization that's fighting at the local and federal level all the time
Mhm.
for policy to protect funding for cancer research. You know, just yesterday, they're on their way back today from DC with legislation that passed to do exactly what you're talking about, the at-home cancer screenings. It's really big, because in some areas, like, you and I are from Central Illinois. If we go 3 hours south, there's not a cancer center for miles.
Right.
And so we have to be able to make it more accessible.
And unfortunately, cancer is one of those things. It's a disease, it's a virus, it's a contamination that it doesn't care who you are, it affects it. We do a lot of work with Wrestling for a Cure. 100% of their proceeds go to St. Jude's for to fight children's cancer. So once a month, if you ever watch it through Facebook or YouTube, you're going to see me like getting shocked with a shock collar for donations, shot with a paintball gun for donations, all that stuff. But it's for a good cause, because some of these people that go through, I've seen firsthand, what cancer does. I wouldn't imagine someone like a loved one, or my wife Susan, or a child, or going through that. But it's just when cancer affects the family, it changes the family in such a way. So any potential like improvements in technology to prevent or to detect or even catch it before it becomes a thing, definitely take it. Definitely do it.
Absolutely. And, I'm glad you brought up childhood cancer. Happy Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. For those that don't know, we celebrate that in September with the color yellow. And it's really close to my heart, too. So thanks for, love it, Susan. Thank you for all you do to fundraise for them. But, the really hard thing about what'd you say?
The shirt says wrestling for a cure on it. St. Jude's.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
We'll have to get you a shirt sometime.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. I'm glad you shared. I would love to have a shirt and rock it, because the hard thing about childhood cancer is we don't really know of a way to prevent it yet, right? Or to even sometimes detect it early. It's really close to my heart. I have a little loved one who's fighting right now. And, I think what I've heard from them or learned through their experience is the survivorship piece, like rallying around these families, like you're talking about, being able to, sometimes we're like, how do I help? Well, they're going to be hungry. They're going to need gas. They're going to need hotels potentially. And so if you're ever wondering about ways to help a family who is battling childhood cancer, just rally around them with resources. Pick up the other kids, take them for the weekend, take them shopping, get their minds off it, because it's really, really hard on the other kids in the family. And that's just for pediatric cancer.
Right. So as you mentioned genetic, now obviously there's also the environmental factors that you've mentioned.
Yeah.
We live in a society now where those environmental factors, unfortunately, are everywhere, it seems.
They are.
I, for one, I smoke. I hate that I smoke. I have tried several times to quit smoking, and it's very difficult. But outside of, obviously smoking, which we know causes cancer and other diseases, are there any environmental factors that people might be getting exposed to they're not aware of?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about it. First, I just want to remind you and anybody else who smokes that, it's okay, right? I want you to quit. I want you to quit as soon as you're ready to quit. But what I want to make sure people understand is in 1998, the federal government indicted the tobacco industry for $200 billion. And the reason was the tobacco industry was found guilty for victimizing its people, its military, its women, its working men. And so that cost was $200 billion. And it has continued, like we got the settlement, right, through the Tobacco Master Settlement Agreement. But what hasn't happened is taking all of that money into supporting people to quit and to prevent it from happening now in the form of vape, right? So it's this evolving situation. And I want to remind people, I work with somebody I'm actually getting ready to introduce to Casey Ray on Notorious Escapades. We're going to talk about this, the true crime of the Tobacco Master Settlement Agreement, because what happened was they were found guilty. We didn't really do a lot with that money. And now we have this other crime. It's like a war on our kids, right? And Chris Draft, who I'm going to be bringing on air with Notorious Escapades, is, going to walk us through really what that crime looks like. And he loves to say, are they, thinking of me, a grown ass man, when they have bubblegum flavors? Is it me that they're thinking about, or is it, young kids? And so there really is still a very true crime component of our fight against tobacco. And so because of that, in Illinois, we are very fortunate here to still have a robust host of tobacco cessation tools that are free. 1-800-QUIT-YES or quityes.org. There's cessation counseling. And we really just want people to know that whether you try one time or it might take you 7 times, it will be the greatest achievement of your lifetime, right? Not just because you'll breathe easier, but because you'll save money and all these other things. So for people that aren't sure where to start or feel overwhelmed with starting, I just want to encourage people. We see you, we hear you, even if you go to the doctor and they're, on your backs about it. It's really just because folks love you and want to help you. And so when you're ready, just know that that's there. So, that said, there are so many other factors in our environment that we breathe, right? So, when I go into schools, the kids, I had a question from a teenager and she goes, I thought vaping was healthy, like the healthy alternative. And it's like, what I responded with is, imagine what our lungs are asking us for, whether it's intentional or non-intentional, right? They're asking us for clean air. That's what they want. And so, when you look across the state of Illinois and across the country, radon is a huge risk factor for all of us. In fact, there's no safe spot in Illinois where we don't have high radon levels. And even the low end of the high radon levels is equivalent to X number of packs of cigarettes per day, on the minimum.
Wow.
And so we all have a risk in terms of radon risk reduction. There's not a lot of legislation in this space. So a good cancer prevention metric that we can all do is order the $20 test kit online, set it up and make sure that our radon risk is not high. And if it is, to go ahead and get mitigated. I did this. I did this long before I was in this work because I was going to move my bedroom to the basement and my levels were through the roof. So I got mitigated at the ticket price of $900, I think. And essentially what they do is they come in and put a fan system to help get those gases out of your air. And so that's a great way to prevent, our environments, or have some control over the air quality in our environment. The other thing is, I've been noticing 'tis the season for all the road improvement projects.
Yes.
And I just I'm thinking about it when I drive past and you see all the fumes and all of the particles that these I was going to say guys, but it's people are breathing in on the job all day long and they don't think twice about it because it's always been that way. But if you can wear a mask, whether you're at work or whether you're cleaning, if you just become mindful of what it is that you're using. And again, our lungs just want clean air. They just want to have good clean air. And sometimes that's hard to come by in 2025. So the more we can, help them by masking up or what have you, you're worth it. Your life and your health is worth it.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing too is we don't, like you mentioned earlier, the environmental, we don't consider I work in a factory. We make plastic sandwich bags. We have to have a knife that comes down on these bags. It starts out as a long bundle of film. You have to have a knife that comes down, cuts these bags. They have a small vent up there to absorb it, but you never consider, most of the air was probably filled with melted plastic resin of some capacity. And you really don't consider the environmental. Everybody has the idea that, things like smoking will cause cancer, any type of tobacco product, tar, working on asphalt, that kind of stuff. People are the big one that's come out now recently is all the 9/11 first responders who responded to New York, who unfortunately did receive cancer or some type of ailment from the site, from ground zero, from all that concrete that fell. But people don't consider the environmental. They just figure, I'm here working 12 hours, pouring tar, pouring this concrete, working with, and it's kind of interesting because there's no awareness for that. There's no awareness for the environmental. There's awareness for, the vaping, like you said, the smoking and all that stuff. But when it comes to the environmental standpoints, it's kind of ignored, it seems like.
It is, and it's because we aren't talking enough about it. So when we had an exercise where we were trying to walk through, how to. I don't work in fundraising. I don't work in development or corporate relations or anything like that. My colleagues do. And so we were working on like a teamwork activity where they were trying to find potential big donors, right? Potential big corporate organizations that might want to partner with the American Cancer Society. And the organization, the company that I was given, creates mops and cleaning products. And I was like, okay, it's really interesting that we would go give them or, ask them for a bunch of money to screen for cancer when they don't even know how much their own process is contributing to cancer, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, if we really want to make a bigger impact, let's look at the research. We can't even so then that took me on like a little rabbit hole, and I found some researchers who wanted to partner, and they're like, yeah, let's look at, the local impact of industry, right? Whether it's you in the sandwich bag world, or whether it's, mops and chemicals over here, or coal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever. And find out what the local impact is on cancer. And where I got hung up so far is there's not really a good marker, a way to measure the environmental components. But what I will say is I went to the other part of my job is I started and still co-lead the Illinois Lung Cancer Roundtable. And so I have a really, big focus on lung cancer, which, by the way, takes more of our people than all the cancers combined. And we're at the lowest screening rate. We're only at less than 15% in almost every area of people. Yeah. So I have a real passion for it. But I went out to a world conference on lung cancer this time last year. And what I found so fascinating, like you're talking about, the innovation and technology, is that we have these disparities, right? A disparity is when something is affecting one group more than the other. And in lung cancer right now, it's like for young Asian women, there's not as many, in that population, but there's a lot more prevalence of lung cancer. And we're like, why? Asian and Pacific Islanders. Well, there's studies now that are showing that cancer is being detected on our breath. That comes straight from our environment. That comes straight from what we're standing over in the kitchen cooking. That comes straight from, housekeeping jobs or in hospitality. And so, it begins to make sense why you would have some of those population-specific disparities when you look at, what's in people, especially with lung cancer that have never smoked. It's like, well, what could they possibly be doing like their peers that's having this sort of effect? And, it's interesting to me that it could be detected on the breath, but that's where we are.
Well, I have a friend of mine. He recently just got over stomach cancer. Now, this man had never smoked, never drank a day in his life.
Wow.
Never. Sorry. And he texted us one day last year saying, hey, I got to take some time off, from hanging out with everybody. I have stomach cancer. And it was so weird. But do you believe there's a more abundance of the chemicals that would cause cancer in things such as cleaning supplies, food, and other environmental processes that we're not aware of? Like, we take a drink of a can of soda and we're thinking, oh, this is good soda. But those 5-6 sodas could have something in it. Like, what was it? It was aspartame is what they put in diet soda to make it sweeter, but it causes cancer in the stomach.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is just one of those things where, we have grown to trust the resources that we have in place, right? Like the FDA. So if you compare like what our FDA allows compared to what Europe allows, it's very different, right? And so asking questions like you're asking is really important. So the answer is there are a lot of things that we consider normal and that we're, surrounded by or consuming all the time that are very toxic, and have been for a long time. So, yes, things like, the soda example is good. But then, there's a lot of stuff and hormones and such in dairy and meat, right? And so there's a lot of new science coming out, being able to show, some links, definitely links between, high consumption of red meat linked to colon cancer. So, we have to be really mindful of what's possible. And then in our rural communities, if I pulled up a map of Illinois right now, which I can do, if it helps, there is, in the center, which is central Illinois, right, where you and I are,
Right.
Tyler and me, is all red. And that's not where we want to be. We have the most significant cancer disparities right here in central Illinois. Well, when I look at what might be causing some of those things, and again, we would have to put some more expertise behind this besides Kaitlyn, but we have things like CWLP, we have ADM, we have some of those factories. And then, we have a lot of farming communities where there's a lot of chemicals and a lot of sprays and things like that. So all of those are definitely risk factors.
What's the name of the map? I'd have to look up. I can pull it up here if you want.
Well, you have to filter it out and such. But I have a picture, if a picture would help.
I think a picture might help. I think I might. Would this be here by chance? Obviously, we want correct information.
Yeah, so it's going to be from State Cancer Profiles. Oh, yeah. Yep.
That's it?
It's probably an old one. Does it say the year?
2009. Yeah, so that'd be an old one.
The most recent one is 2021. And that's even before in that data, we aren't even seeing the results of all the delays caused by, the COVID pandemic. So, hey, Casey.
Yeah. Hey, Casey. So what's the name of the map again? Illinois Cancer.
State Cancer Profiles. But if a picture would be helpful, I'm happy to share that.
Yes, if you have that, and I mean, we could pull that up. Do you know how to share that?
Yeah, I'll get it. I just gotta find it.
Okay. So, I mean, I would say you're correct, especially with this is a farming state, for better or worse. It's a farming state. We grow a lot of crops here. Farmers are going to spray their fields with pesticides. They're going to spray their fields with all types of stuff to help plants grow. But the problem is also that while that may be helping the plants you're harvesting, it's not going to help the people that get exposed to it.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And so that's why I believe so strongly in having the information, right? So that we can make our own choices. Like if somebody wants to wear a mask at work, they should be able to wear a mask at work to protect themselves, if that's not already the standard, right?
Right.
And so that's why I really like to come on to platforms like this and just really get people thinking. Should I just share my screen then, Tyler?
Yes, you're going to go down to the little icon here, and a little monitor icon with the plus, and you're going to click on it, and it'll say on the bottom, share screen. And you'll click on the screen you wish to share.
Let's see here. So I'm actually going to teach you guys how to find this in case anybody wants to do it on their own.
Yeah, I got it right here. There we go.
Yeah, so you can see the state of Illinois there.
And this is current?
This is as current as what's available.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 2021. So this is all cancer types, all ages, and this is what we call incidence rates. So, how much cancer is in that specific area, and this is by county. Those lines are county lines. So,
dude, Central Illinois, what is going on? That is like a sea of red right where you and I and the show is based. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah. And again, this is really, you know, not even reflective of the health outcomes that we will continue to be, you know, feeling for 20 years or so after the delays caused by the pandemic. Because what happened was when we shut things down, you know, not only the people that needed to get screened didn't get screened, but like all the follow-ups that went, you know, delayed or what have you.
Mm.
And then there was a bottleneck when we reopened. And so, you know, if we wanted to jump into screening, I think that would be really good. The American Cancer Society does a good job of listing their screening guidelines online, whether it's prostate cancer this month. So any guy out there or anybody with a prostate, if you're over 50 of average risk, wants you to be asking about the PSA. And if you're at a high risk or your family has an extra high risk, a lot of prostate cancer in your family, you want to ask your provider about that at 40. And so, you know, what I was going to say is the American Cancer Society does a good job about talking about those screening messages so that we can get out there and detect it early, because we know that even though, you know, the idea of hearing something like you might have cancer is really scary.
Yep.
It's even more scary, you know, when you detect it later. So we want to get people in, we want to talk about it. You want to feel empowered to have these conversations openly and honestly with your providers, because as you saw on the map, it's just affecting so many of us, right? Like we can't wait for it to just disappear.
No. Why is it affecting Central Illinois so much? What is it? What do you? Is it? I'm taking it's obviously environmental. What's happening in Central Illinois? It has to be.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at the rest of the state, and it's like it's just there's this. It's like a bullseye right there where we live at. It's like it's crazy.
One thing, you know, that I would be remiss if I didn't talk about is some health plans do a better job at incentivizing their people to get screened because it's less expensive for them to get screened and treated earlier than it is to, you know, pay for the big bill if they wait a long time and have more advanced treatment and all of that. So, you know, some organizations and insurance companies do put incentives behind preventive care, right? Whether it's cancer screenings or dental checkups, right? Go to the dentist too.
Well, I'm in trouble with that. I'm not going to smile anymore then.
No, it's just, you know, it's funny. I always say our vet reminds us to bring our pets back, but we have to remind each other to go do the things. But you know, it's the more we can talk about it, the more we can, you know, make space for these conversations and to be like, hey, I got screened. I talked to a guy today. He's like, you know, I don't know if I'm the candidate you want to talk to about prostate cancer because I went in and they caught it so early that we're just watching. And I'm like, you're the gold standard.
Mm-hmm.
You're the winning story, right? Like we want people, everybody to have that same experience where they're going and they're being really proactive and really informed, so that they can have some control over it.
Now, obviously, the age to go in to for men to get their prostate looked at is the best time to start. You're saying is 40, correct?
If your family has a lot of prostate cancer, 40. Otherwise, men of average risk are starting to get their PSAs at 50. But start those conversations sooner. And I always say, if you don't have a primary care provider, you are worth it. You are worth going once a year to have a conversation about you and to check in with yourself, to make sure everything's working properly. You do it for your cars, you do it for your pets, do it for you. And so, that's prostate cancer. And then for us ladies of average risk, we need to start getting our mammograms at age 40. And then the other thing I need to talk about for the tatas is knowing if you have dense breasts. Why? Because dense breast is an actual thing. It's an actual diagnosis and it's an actual risk factor where a lot of precancerous things tend to live. And so you want to ask, you know, on your mammogram, you should be able to, if it's a 3D mammogram, which is the standard of care now. You want to watch for those things and ask questions. And so, we know that sometimes dense breasts hide cells that are suspicious. And so just never, look at your report. If you're not signed up to get your reports in your portal, do that, because that's your information. That's about you. Your provider will say, hey, do you want access to the patient portal? Yes, you do. Because you want to be able to see what's going on there. Yeah.
So what do you do with somebody who does not wish to get tested? Like, they are of that age, they know the potential for the risk to increase as they get older, whether they've been exposed environmentally or genetically, and they just don't want to do it.
That's their choice. Yeah, no, I think that that's perfectly, respectable. I never, in the work that I do, I never want people to feel pressured for a lot of reasons, right? Plus, I have a unique perspective on death just due to losing a close one, at a young age. But, thank you. It just, that's why information is so important, right? Because you could hear me tonight and be like, forget that. She, didn't have anything for me. And I respect that, because you heard the information and you heard, you were able to come up with your own decision, and that's okay. We each get one life to live. However you want to live it is your choice to live it.
Right. Because I have multiple people that I know. I have multiple people who have told me that I'm going to leave their names out. I'm not going to I don't want to embarrass them or make them, target or anything like that. But I have one person who had a lump found on their skin recently. They don't want to get tested. And I think maybe that's because of a fear thing. I have one friend who is of the age where he can get his, checked, his colonoscopy. He doesn't want to do it. I have one friend who is having trouble going to the bathroom regularly.
Yeah.
Or having a regular movement of some capacity. And the doctors believe he has an obstruction of some type and he doesn't want to get checked. The problem is, as somebody who sits there and wants them to be healthy and wants them to live a long life, you did raise a good point. We only get one life to live, and the best is to live it the way you want to live it.
It is, as long as they have the information. So let's talk about colonoscopy. It's not the only answer. If you are worried about getting your colon screened because of the colonoscopy, there's at least two other options. Okay. So there's the Fit Kit, which is where you poop on a paper and you send it in. And it's, we have toilet talk in this world. We're like, they do, there's little cartoon videos. There's options here. It's not messy. You don't end up gross. They make the kits really nice. So that's Fit Kit test. And that is good, for a shorter amount of time. But if it's a great way to just get the test done. We say the best kind of test is just one that gets done. And then there's what we call Cologuard. And that's a blood test, and its results are good for 3 years. And those are perfect, options for people that aren't ready for a colonoscopy. And it's totally understandable. Now, if they were to find something a little suspicious, then they might ask you to do a colonoscopy, and you can make that choice at the time. But I do hear a lot of people get really, worried about the colonoscopy itself. And I just like people to know, again, if you have the information, you have the information. And then, sometimes I think in the situation that you're describing, Tyler, with your buddies, it's just the physical component of this is just as important as the emotional and the mental component of this. And I can relate to that and just having to make some really hard decisions about my own body and my own life and care preventively, right? So, as a friend or as someone that we care about, maybe before their decision's final, or you say, hey, before you make your final decision, maybe just talk to somebody. Maybe just talk to somebody about helping you make that decision, and somebody that doesn't know you, or just to be able to work through any of those. There's fear can be really hard to overcome, right? Fear can be really hard.
Yes.
So, just being able to massage the emotional and mental part of it too, it's just as important as the physical part.
Well, I wasn't going to name one of my friends, but he's in the chat room throwing a tantrum right now. He's literally saying, and I quote, "No colonoscopy, LOL."
He doesn't want a camera.
Yes, he's one of the. I wasn't going to name him. But he's one of the ones that I was talking about. My wife would like to say something real quick. So
please.
I have had a colonoscopy. It was years ago, but it wasn't that bad. They can put you to sleep too when they do it. It's not that bad. It really is.
And you know how many, my sister's the nurse that does them here in Springfield. You know how many butts she sees every day? Probably 50. Probably 50.
Oh my gosh.
So they won't remember what yours looks like, for one. We've heard that one. They won't recognize it.
There's no wall of asses in their office, I'm sure, where they're like, this was the worst one I ever saw.
But Susan's right. It's really not to minimize fear, because fear is hard, but it's really not so bad. It's like a little nap.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say, for example, you have someone that is dealing with cancer. Let's shift gears a little bit because we're talking about prevention. Let's say you have a family member who is dealing with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
What is the best thing to do for that family member to keep them motivated and keep them from having the fears of this is it?
Well, for one, what I hear in the success stories is that that mindset is everything, right? So like I was just saying, on the prevention and screening side, where emotional and mental health is just as important as the physical part, same thing's true in the survivorship space. It's like my teenager, she had a math test today, and I'm like, are you gonna ace it? And she said, well, hopefully. And I'm like, no, you're gonna ace it. Like, don't leave space for the opposite, and it holds you to having a reason to keep doing the next hard thing, right? You're like, I can do hard things. So I think that at the same time, it's a really, burdensome journey sometimes. And those feelings are very valid. It's really hard. But we do have at American Cancer Society, which I can link to in the chat, is, again, information. So if you're having symptoms, we have a really great symptom management tool. Mm-hmm. Being able to take control over some of your symptoms, right? So, when I was healing, I took a really great interest in learning more about, not to get away from the medicines that my providers would want me to be on. That you should always do. Follow your provider's recommendations. But are there other things that I can do to be more healthy, like taking interest in more herbs and things like, cooking with certain herbs and things like that. So, finding other ways to stay hopeful and excited and empowered. I have one survivor, and she said, I kept saying, no, I don't have this. I'm not letting this have me. I am going to turn my pain into passion. And she started singing. She sings at like MLB games now. Her name's Kaitlyn. Yeah. And so, she turned her pain into passion. And so then there's the caregiver side, right? And knowing, if you're a person with cancer, you already feel crummy yourself, right? And then you might feel like, oh my gosh, now my family feels crummy for me, and people are sad. And just knowing that, sometimes people feel like a burden. It's not true, but a lot of people feel that way. So we try to really rally around the family and caregiver support area so that we can kind of take away some of that stress, on both the loved ones and the person facing cancer. But again, just rallying around them, taking the kids for a weekend, dropping meals off, or asking, hey, I'm out running errands. Do you want a smoothie? Is there something I can bring you that's like refreshing and easy to eat? Because it's really just knowing that someone's there. A lot of times people are like, I don't know how to help. Well, just show up, honestly. Just show up. Ask them, how can I help?
Okay. My wife, you still want to tell her?
I guess.
My wife has something to say, and this is the problem with our chat room. There is a whole cross conversation about strip. You wanted to be on this show. I'm just telling you. This show gets crazy.
Oh,
This
it's
show
okay.
has the craziest listeners, but it's good. All right. My wife would like to say something. So,
please.
Susan, if you wouldn't mind, just go ahead and come up here and tell her, and maybe she can give you some insight on what to do. So,
Well, my dad is 80 years old in a week. He has bladder cancer, possibly pancreatic cancer, or no, what is it?
pancreatic cancer.
Sorry,
prostate cancer. Okay.
And he I can tell by the way he talks to me that he doesn't want to live anymore. And it's hard. So he lives in Springfield with my family. At least my brother is taking care of him. So
I'm sure that's really hard to accept as his daughter. You know, and it's hard to say, you know, every situation is so unique. It's hard to say, like, you know, it's hard for us to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, right? And you're like, you know, probably have thoughts that span the roller coaster, right? But you know, if you're asking for advice on how to support him, I think
I'm just there as best I can.
Yeah, that's
been in books, lots of books to read that he likes.
Yes, that's right. And you know, and supporting and being vulnerable with him, being vulnerable with your family, and just like sharing in that space together. That's really the best thing that you can do for each other. And try to bring fun things in, right? Like maybe you guys start watching a show together during your visit.
Oh, we've done that.
Yes. Yeah, because it really is just about, you know, support and keeping your mind in the right spot for sure. And for him to, you know, be at that point is respectable, right? It's like
I believe it is. It's valid, his feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have I have a question. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Were you?
No, I just said I'm sorry to hear that. And thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear about your family, your person you lost also.
So obviously with medicine evolving more and more every day, we have I guess you could call it, in my opinion, it would be a medical renaissance, where ever since the pandemic, medicine has been going through a very positive transformation, in my opinion. I mean, well, she deals with epilepsy, so she's like, you know,
epilepsy and fibromyalgia.
But some people have suggested, and it's been brought up in the chat room. I'll bring up Corey's comment here. Corey says he knows a guy from Belleville area who had stage 4 cancer. Didn't want the chemo, so he went to Colorado and started RSO, which I believe that is a type of weed infusion. He's now cancer-free. The weed oil concentrate cured him. I don't know where you would stand on that, but is there any science to show that, yes, marijuana does have the capacity to treat cancer in various forms?
Well, so great question. It's one that I cannot wait to hear more and learn more about. We're just now starting to really study it. So I joined American Cancer Society in 2021, and I hadn't really heard a lot about it. And then just last year in the fall, I think, before the election, we heard from a new national person, out there in this space that has really started to tackle the very questions that are being asked. We know that in some cases, doctors prescribe cannabis for pain-related treatment, right? But we don't really know a lot about, being able to treat, cure tumors or how it interacts or anything like that. Or the forms or strains. And so I'm really excited to see what comes from this finally being a priority. Like finally it has fun, or it did. I don't know if it does now, but it did have a little bit of funding allocated to study this. And then, there's also, I'm seeing, I was attending the White Ribbon Project call, which is a community of lung cancer advocates across the country. And they had a guest on last month who shared his experience with a type of mushrooms. And so, there's a lot of things that are happening faster than I can keep up with. It's really exciting. It's really, I think that's why it's so important for us to have the conversations and really just be holistic in the way we think about things.
Right. It really, because the only way you're going to find a solution is to come up and discuss what the problem is. And obviously the problem is right now cancer. We know cancer is a big deal in this country. It's rising every day. The question is what treatments can we find? And that actually helps a comment here that segues into this. Cindy Lopian, who's been a listener for a while, she says, I had been in menopause for at least a year and continued to occasionally have spotting. I had a family member who made me go to the gynecologist, and sure enough, she had endometrial cancer, S9 ladies. Please keep up with your smears. Chemo was a total bitch, but she's 3 years out from her last chemo treatment. Hey, good job. Good job, Cindy.
Yeah.
Celebrating your survivorship, Cindy. If you ever want to share stories, anybody, just about, just like Cindy did, the American Cancer Society makes it easy, and I have a link. But yes, it just goes to show, being, we have to stay on top of our things. While our guidelines aren't perfect, our national guidelines and what insurance approves is not perfect. Let's at least go with what we've got, right? Like, let's at least follow the guidelines that we do have. So thank you for sharing, Cindy. Chemo is not fun.
It's not.
It's not easy.
So the big question has been for the longest time, and I don't know if you're able to answer this question. So if you're not, we can move on. But the big question has been, we've been dealing with cancer for centuries.
Yeah.
How come science has not discovered an adequate treatment or cure? And we still have to rely on things such as chemotherapy, because a lot of people tell you, like Cindy Lopian in her post literally said, chemo was a total bitch.
Yep.
How come society has not discovered a cure or a better treatment that's not as devastating?
Yeah.
It's a great question. So I think that because we hadn't prioritized it. So now we're seeing more, we're seeing more people ask questions about more natural treatments. We're seeing more pushback on, and now we have targeted therapy. So some of it has to do with being able to find out the right kind of tumor or problem, and then the right kind of medicine to match it up. And those two things happening together and at the same time and seamlessly is like a miracle sometimes, right?
Right.
So, now that we have additional technology and science, and we have people like you in our audience here who are asking really good questions, the researchers are changing. We're not necessarily as stuck in like this is how it was always done space. We are hearing more from the community, from the country, saying, hey, exactly what you just said, like, what's the holdup, basically. But then, the COVID-19 pandemic gave us a vaccine. And the cool thing about what happened with the vaccine was protein related. And long before the COVID-19 pandemic, I was listening to a podcast from Cuba, and they were injecting lungs with a certain type of protein to get them to stop growing, to get this tumors to stop growing, and it was working. They were like 10 to 15 years out of this study. And so, there's a lot of factors. Okay, so why don't we have that here? Well, do we play well with Cuba?
Nah, we should.
To take ourselves out of the World Health Organization, health code or whatever, so we did. We have to learn that if we really want these, access to the things as they become available, we have to work with the people that are helping us discover them. And it's not just happening here in the United States. There's a lot of really smart people in a lot of the other parts of the world. So,
well, and I feel like, a cure for cancer or a better treatment should really be a world effort. It really should, because cancer doesn't just affect one country. It doesn't just affect one group of people. It affects all humans. And if we could, I mean, obviously I'm gonna try to skirt this here as best I can because it's a little bit controversial. But if we can get a vaccine for COVID just a few months after the initial impact of the pandemic hitting, and that was like within a time span of 4 or 5 months, we had a vaccine for it. That was a rushed effort. They tried and it worked. It was what we needed at the time. Surely if they could apply that type of motivation, they could possibly find something. I remember years ago that I read something. Switzerland thought the cure for cancer was in AIDS, the autoimmune disease. And they also thought that the cure for AIDS was in bee venom. So it's interesting how we are looking.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking. The attempts have been there, like you said, with Cuba. That's the first time I've ever heard of attempting to put proteins in people's lungs. It sounds like it could work.
Yeah.
But, and I'm looking at the comments as one of the reasons why I was trying to skirt that. But it's just, I think the attempts are there. I just feel as though like we're close.
We have to work. We have to be willing to partner as a globe. The reason we were able to develop a COVID vaccine that, again, maybe it wasn't perfect, but it sure as heck saved a whole lot of lives in real time, right? And so we have to work to improve it over time. But the reason it happened, I'll use successfully loosely. The reason it happened as successfully as it did was because we worked together as a team. We had a global pandemic on our hands, and we had some other countries that were carrying the weight, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
So, we got to keep asking the questions, and we got to keep demanding that these organizations, are working together, playing nice in the sandbox. And for Pete's sakes, ask your legislators to protect the funding for cancer research, cancer screening, healthcare in general. What good is any of this if we have no hospitals to go to anymore, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to our health, it's not a political thing. It's think of yourself and what you might need. Mm-hmm. And that's what we need to fight for.
Okay. Outside of the cancer, because I think this is actually my final question here. I see you brought something up. Do I need to bring this up on screen or?
Well, I was just going to see if I could find, I didn't realize I was still sharing, if I could find a link to that cool lung cancer vaccine I was telling you about, but no, it's all good.
Okay. Well, while you're looking for that, you have a business. You must be just a caring person altogether. You're caring for people and you're caring for animals.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about Keen on Pet Care. So the really cool thing is,
about it.
Yeah. So, more than anything, I believe in being healthy and well, right? So we talked about physical wellness in terms of being proactive for cancer prevention, but a big piece of it is our emotional and mental health. So I have a beautiful princess pit bull named Eliza Sky. And I know that she is just, one of my pride and joys. But I believe that, and it's not just me that believes it, the science shows us that our lives are extended when we have pets in our lives. So 2017, we had 2 rescues, and we like to travel. And I was noticing that it's really hard to travel when you have pets. So we started taking them with us and found, that Rover existed. And when we did that so many times, I'm like, well, we could start pet sitting. And so we did, kind of informally. And then 2020 hit, and over 20% of Americans, adopted a pet. And I was going to be having my surgeries. I was going to be having 3 surgeries that year to take preventive measures in my own journey to be a previvor. And I thought, well, I either lose all my clients that I've, served over the last 3 years, or I grow the team. And so Keen on Pet Care grew, and we have a team of independent contractors who are professional pet sitters. And we're currently just serving really pretty much Springfield and some of the really, neighboring communities here. But exciting news is that we're launching a mobile platform. I saw my version in, admin in the Google store. So it's like on the verge of being live to everybody, and we're going to be able to expand our team and really bring professional pet sitting services to a community near you. Because I really believe that, like I said, everybody needs a pet, and everybody needs to be able to get away, even though they have a pet. So we serve, animals in your home or ours. We offer overnight care, drop-in services, dog. Oh, there's my princess.
This is your dog here?
Yes, that's a light. That was fresh after her grooming session this week.
Look at that puppy. Is that? I'm going to take it. That's a pit bull.
Yeah, that's Eliza Sky.
Oh, look at that little nose.
And yeah, they are very healing. They know when we're not well. They, just the companionship that they bring. So American Cancer Society has this really awesome program called Pups Assisting with Support. Speaking of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, we just launched our new, I think we invited 10 hospital systems across the country to hire a dog for ACS Paws, and they're going in and sitting side by side. And the studies that is being done around animals in cancer care for kids, yes, what Broomstick's saying here is just absolutely spot on according to the science. They're helping them heal faster. Their overall experience is less brutal, and their families have a better care experience. Oh, we have another special guest.
This is my Charlie.
Hi, Charlie. I'm so glad Charlie could join us.
This is our boy. He goes in to get fixed next week, and he is 100% a mama's boy.
Oh,
100%. I guarantee if I take this guy, he's gonna think I'm playing. He's gonna start growling and trying to bite me and stuff like that.
On me.
Let me see.
Bless you, Charlie. Oh, he's precious. Charlie, good luck with your surgery next week. Charlie's taking preventive care. So if you have a pet, spaying and neutering them really is good for their health. So, wow. Good.
Put the microphone off.
Come here, baby.
Love it. I don't know where my princess is, but
we have Charlie here, and we have 3 cats.
Okay.
Charlie is a rescue. All 3 cats are rescues. That's all we.
Bless you.
That's all we get are rescues. He's got allergies or something going on. Yeah.
Allergies right now going on.
Adopt, don't shop. Thank you for being a rescue family. That's awesome.
Well, you never know. We might have to go someplace. Me and Susan's planning a cruise. If I could slow down and talk, we're planning a cruise. We might have to call you up and say, "Hey, would you mind watching this little rascal here?"
Heck yeah. You need a cruise in your life.
Oh yeah. So I would say that you live a very caring, almost guardian angel. Like, will you control your dog? Get him out of here. You have a very loving guardian angel type lifestyle, because not only do you help with cancer, you help with the fur babies. is there anything else you do? Do you help, like, build wells or something? Or have you deflected asteroids? Can we start calling you Superman next or Superwoman?
Sorry, but take it.
Oh, that's funny.
You
I am fortunate that my passion and my work, really become one. I'm a mom to a teenager, so she keeps me busy, and she's super bright and her future's super bright. So, together we like to do a lot of work in the community. She's the little activist herself. And yeah, I volunteer with different organizations and always happy to help make connections. Thanks to a really awesome connection, I was able to be on your show tonight. So
oh yeah,
I have a good network and love to be able to bring people into my world that are also good people. So yeah.
She literally messaged me. Casey Ray messaged me and said, "You gotta have Kaitlyn Keen on." I'm like, all right. And it was back when I was doing like 6 other people. I was trying to.
I'm not doing nothing.
Be good. But it was like, it was like when I was trying to get 7 other interviews. Take him upstairs. Take him upstairs.
Okay.
Charlie.
Bye. Everybody say goodbye to Charlie.
Bye, Charlie.
Bye, Charlie.
He's also due for a haircut too.
He's so precious.
He's got his werewolf costume on already. But it was back when I was getting ready for like 7 interviews. And then after I got done with all 7, I had like 3 more. And it was one of those interviews I just forgot about. Casey calls me up and goes, "Why haven't you had Kaitlyn on yet? For God's sake." I'm like, "Okay, I'll get her on." She was like, "I'll kick your ass. You don't get her on."
Casey's having my back. I love it. So
she talked highly of you. That's for sure.
Well, I'm really grateful for Notorious Escapades. They were one of the first opportunities I had to come on air with a platform like this and reach an audience like this. So thanks to that invitation, this time last year, a couple more have happened in the meantime. I'm here tonight. And then definitely tune in our November episode with former NFL player, former Chicago Bears linebacker Chris Draft, when he'll be talking about the true crime component of the Tobacco Master settlement agreement with Casey Ray. So yeah, that'll be fun. But it's really awesome just to be able to find these connections and some, thank you for letting us on. You do have a connection to cancer, but the topics can really go in any circle, right? I really like to get that point across that if nothing else, I just want people to really love you like you love the people around you, and that's taking care of yourself.
Yeah, I would love to get what was his name again? The linebacker.
Chris Draft.
Chris Draft. I would love to get him on because I was just in junior high when that lawsuit happened. And I mean, I get it. Casey has him in November, but I would love to get him sometime, maybe after the holidays or something like that, because that is something that you said so yourself. We're still feeling the effects of today.
Yes.
You have the tobacco company. They're pushing the vapes. They're pushing all. It's so weird. It's still continuing on.
Yeah. So I will definitely, put a plug in for that. Let's see how the November one goes and what topics we cover during that episode. And, Chris is an amazingly supportive partner who's helped us open up all kinds of doors. And I'm sure we can work something out to bring him here and figure out the best topic to cover.
And obviously, when we have him on, I would definitely love to have you back on. You've been great this whole time. I've loved it. These are the type of podcasts. When I do the interview podcast, I'm looking to educate people. And I'm also looking to put the guest on a platform, on a pedestal, and say, look, you've got to check this person out. And obviously, I think we can all agree, your health is key. I've always said it 100 times. Mental health, physical health, it's key in everything. Nothing gets more important than trying to prevent cancer. Even me, I'm a smoker. You've already told me you gotta quit. She's told me you gotta quit. Chat room has told me you gotta quit. but it is so hard. But you also understand the difficulties.
Oh, I do. I would be, I would be doing myself and everybody around me a disservice if I didn't acknowledge the difficulty of it. And when you're ready, you'll do it. Something will click in your brain, and you probably don't know what it is right this second, but it'll happen, and you'll be ready.
Yeah.
In the meantime, just know that there's resources out and ready to jump into support.
Yeah. Well, this has been an incredible podcast, Kaitlyn. It's been an incredible interview. I have no more questions to ask you, and we hit an hour and 10 minutes, so I would say this is a good place to call it. So, Kaitlyn, where can is your business Keen on Pet Care? Is it up for the Illinois Times Best Podcast Award or Best Podcast Illinois Times Award by chance?
We were nominated but didn't make it into the final round this year. Where I would like to direct people to is American Cancer Society's website, cancer.org. And you can, just learn more. If you know somebody facing cancer, there's resources there like free rides to treatment. So definitely check out everything that's going on there. Thank you for putting that in. And then, to follow along with Keen on Pet Care, we're going to be launching our mobile app and expanding the team. So that's keenonpetcare.com or on Facebook. And we would love to have you follow along.
I got you covered. Don't worry. We'll get you some business going, and we'll make sure next year you get in for that vote for sure.
Hey, and vote for the best damn podcast.
Right? Thank you.
Right now, you guys have been awesome. Thanks, Tyler and Susan, and everybody in the chat.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for us. We'll be back tomorrow with our normal comedy show. Obviously, go check out cancer.org to find out more information on how you can help people with cancer, how you can prevent your own cancer, and treatments and availability. If you have a fur baby and you're wanting to get out of the house, give Ashley Keen a call. Go to keenonpetcare.com and make sure you tell them the Best Damn Podcast sent you. They will take care of your fur babies. Dogs, cats, you name it. Probably nothing big. I don't think you're going to take care of an alligator, are you?
I might draw it at alligators. Pigs, snakes, and birds. I'll stick to caring for alligators in an imaginary world.
Yeah, I think if somebody comes up to you with an alligator, like, can you take care of my pet gator? Your first reaction is going to be, why do you have a pet gator? What?
Yes, totally.
Yeah, so.
Great seeing you all. Thanks so much for having me on. Much love. Take care.
Thank you very much for being on, and we will see you all tomorrow on the next edition of the Best Damn Podcast. So long, everybody. Have a good night.
Take care. Bye-bye.